They say words hold power, but silence holds more. It lingers longer, cuts deeper, and speaks louder than any shout ever could. When the world no longer hears you, why waste your breath explaining? The moment you feel unappreciated, misunderstood, or unwanted, leave, not with anger, not with tears, but with quiet dignity. Silence is often misunderstood. Many believe words are the ultimate tool of expression, that speaking louder, faster, or more frequently ensures they'll be heard. But true power often resides in the quiet, in the stillness between the noise. Silence doesn't beg for attention, it commands it. It's the space where reflection blooms and emotions resonate the loudest. When words fail, silence speaks. In moments of profound grief or overwhelming joy, words feel insufficient. A quiet embrace, a knowing look, or simply standing by someone's side in silence holds more weight than 1,000 comforting phrases. It's in this wordless connection that we find honesty, raw, unfiltered, and undeniable. Silence also carries an air of mystery. People are naturally drawn to what they can't fully understand. A person who remains quiet amidst chaos or conflict exudes a certain strength. They're not reacting impulsively, nor are they wasting energy explaining themselves. Instead, they allow their silence to create curiosity and reflection. The mind fills the gaps that words leave behind, and often those imagined truths are far more powerful than spoken ones. Moreover, silence forces listening. In a world that never stops talking, the one who falls quiet becomes impossible to ignore. It disrupts the pattern. Silence demands attention not through volume, but through contrast. It leaves people wondering what's unsaid, and that wondering is often louder than any speech could be. Beyond commanding attention, silence is a teacher. It allows time to think, process, and understand. When we resist the urge to fill uncomfortable silences with meaningless chatter, we create space to truly listen to ourselves and to others. It's in those pauses that wisdom emerges. We realize that not every battle needs fighting, not every opinion needs defending, and not every mistake needs explaining. Silence can also be a powerful response. When faced with criticism, insults, or provocation, responding with silence shows restraint and control. It denies the aggressor the reaction they seek, leaving them with nothing but their own noise. Silence in this sense becomes a mirror, reflecting the other person's behavior back at them without adding fuel to the fire. In relationships, silence speaks volumes. When words are overused or lose meaning, silence becomes the measure of truth. A quiet withdrawal often signals a broken connection more clearly than any argument. On the other hand, comfortable silence, the kind where no words are needed, signifies a deep, unspoken bond. The ability to sit together in silence without awkwardness is a testament to trust and emotional intimacy. Even in leadership and influence, silence holds remarkable power. A leader who speaks only when necessary carries more weight than one who talks endlessly. Their words are anticipated, valued, and remembered. Silence, paired with the right timing, makes words more impactful, like a pause in music that amplifies the note that follows. Most importantly, silence protects peace. It shields our energy from those who drain it and preserves our dignity when walking away is the bravest choice. Leaving in silence from arguments, toxic situations, or places where you're no longer valued is a statement in itself. It says, I value my peace more than this battle. And that kind of silence resonates long after you're gone. In the end, silence isn't empty. It's full of meaning. It's a canvas where the mind paints its own interpretations, a force that lingers in the absence of sound. Words may echo for a moment, but silence stays. It humbles egos, soothes hearts, and leaves the deepest impact. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Self-respect is one of the most powerful things a person can possess. It's the quiet, unwavering belief that you are enough, without the need for constant validation or approval from others. When you prioritize your self-respect over endless explanations, you reclaim your dignity and peace. You stop living for other people's understanding and start living for your own truth. The urge to explain ourselves comes from a natural desire to be seen and understood. We want people to know our intentions, our feelings, and our side of the story. But the truth is, no matter how carefully you explain, some people will only hear what they want to hear. They'll twist your words, misinterpret your meaning, or refuse to believe you altogether. Chasing their understanding becomes a losing battle, one that drains your energy and chips away at your self-worth. Self-respect means recognizing that you don't owe anyone an explanation for how you live your life. You don't have to justify your choices, your boundaries, or your dreams, especially to those who belittle or misunderstand them. Your life is yours to live, and the people who genuinely care about you won't demand explanations. They'll trust you, even if they don't always fully understand you. There's a quiet strength in walking away from situations where you're constantly forced to explain yourself. Whether it's a toxic relationship, a draining friendship, or an environment that doesn't value you, staying to convince people of your worth only diminishes it. True self-respect means knowing when to stop talking and start walking. Explanations often become apologies in disguise. We start justifying not only our actions, but our very existence, as if we owe the world a reason for being who we are. But self-respect reminds you that you are allowed to take up space without apologizing for it. You are allowed to change, grow, and choose your own path unapologetically. Letting go of the need to explain doesn't mean you stop caring or that you become cold. It means you value your peace more than you value convincing others. It means you trust yourself enough to know that your truth doesn't need approval to be valid. People who truly matter will see your heart without you having to hold it up for inspection. Sometimes silence becomes the most powerful explanation of all. Walking away calmly without defending yourself sends a louder message than words ever could. It says, I respect myself too much to stay where I'm not valued. That kind of silent self-respect leaves an impact, one that lingers longer than any argument or plea for understanding. When you prioritize self-respect, you attract better energy. You stop seeking validation from people who were never meant to validate you in the first place. Instead, you start drawing in those who value and appreciate you for who you are, without the need for constant explanations or proof. Self-respect also teaches you to embrace solitude when needed. It reminds you that being alone is far better than being in spaces where you feel misunderstood or unappreciated. It's not loneliness, it's self-preservation. When you stop explaining yourself, you make room for self-discovery, growth, and a deeper understanding of your own worth. In the end, self-respect isn't loud or boastful. It's quiet, steady, and unshakable. It's the understanding that you are enough as you are, without performing, proving, or explaining. And the moment you stop explaining yourself to those who refuse to understand you, you set yourself free. Free to live unapologetically, love wholeheartedly, and walk away silently, with your dignity intact. Laughter fills a room, grabs attention, and makes people turn their heads. It's a force that can brighten even the darkest moments. Loud, contagious, and impossible to ignore. But dignity? Dignity doesn't demand attention. It stands quietly, unshaken, unwavering. While laughter echoes for a moment, dignity lingers long after the noise fades. Laughter often represents joy, confidence, and strength, and it's beautiful in its own way. Yet it can also be a mask. People laugh to hide pain, to blend in, or to cover insecurity. Dignity, on the other hand, is never a performance. It doesn't need an audience. It exists in silence, in the decisions we make when no one's watching, and in the strength to walk away from what no longer serves us, quietly, without a need to announce it. There's a certain power in staying silent when the world expects you to react loudly. Dignity is choosing not to engage in meaningless arguments, not to chase validation, and not to explain yourself to those determined to misunderstand you. It's knowing that you don't need to be the loudest voice in the room to be heard. Sometimes the most powerful statement is no statement at all. Laughter can win a crowd, but dignity wins respect. People may remember the joke you told or the way you made them laugh, but they'll never forget the quiet grace with which you handled a difficult situation. When you hold your head high, even after disappointment, betrayal, or failure, you show a strength that words and laughter could never convey. Dignity is walking away without slamming the door. It's knowing you could argue, you could fight back, you could tear someone down, but you choose not to. Not because you're weak, but because you value your peace more than proving a point. It's a quiet victory that doesn't need an audience to be meaningful. We live in a world that celebrates loudness, loud opinions, loud successes, and loud personalities. But the people who truly inspire us are often the ones who carry themselves with quiet confidence. They don't boast about their wins or broadcast their struggles. Their dignity speaks for them. And that kind of strength leaves a lasting impression. Laughter is fleeting. Dignity is permanent. A joke may be forgotten, but the way you treated someone with kindness, respect, and grace will be remembered for a lifetime. Dignity is a legacy. It's what people recall long after you're gone, long after the noise has faded. But there's also a profound kind of dignity in knowing when to be quiet with yourself. When life gets hard, it's tempting to seek comfort in noise, in distractions, in people, in external validation. But true healing often happens in silence, where dignity reminds you that you don't need the world's applause to feel worthy. You only need your own self-respect. Dignity teaches us that not everything requires a reaction. When you choose to stay quiet in the face of criticism or cruelty, you take back control. You're no longer giving the other person power over your emotions. Silence becomes your shield. Not a sign of surrender, but a sign that you're above the battle. In the end, laughter may draw people to you, but dignity is what makes them admire you. It's easy to be loud, it's easy to entertain, but to hold on to your dignity, to remain kind, strong, and unwavering when the world pushes you to break, that is a rare and quiet kind of power. Sometimes the loudest message is delivered in silence, through absence, not words. When explanations, apologies, or arguments fall on deaf ears, walking away becomes the most powerful statement you can make. Your absence can create a void that speaks louder than your presence ever could. It forces reflection, leaving behind a silence they can't ignore or dismiss. We often stay longer than we should, believing that if we just explain ourselves one more time, they'll understand. But the truth is, people hear only what they want to hear. No amount of words can make someone value you if they've already decided not to. That's when absence becomes your voice, a voice that doesn't beg, doesn't plead, but simply leaves. Absence is powerful because it disrupts comfort. When you're always available, people begin to take your presence for granted. They assume you will always be there to listen, to help, to forgive. But when you step away, they're forced to confront the emptiness you leave behind. It's in that emptiness that they realize what your presence truly meant. Leaving doesn't always mean slamming doors or making dramatic exits. True absence is quiet, dignified, and intentional. It's walking away without seeking attention or sympathy. It's knowing your worth enough to stop fighting for a place where you're no longer valued. The silence left in your wake becomes a mirror, reflecting their behavior back at them, showing them what they lost. Absence creates clarity, not just for others, but for you. It gives you the space to breathe, to heal, and to rediscover yourself outside the noise of their expectations. Sometimes we stay so long trying to prove our worth that we forget our own value. Walking away isn't just a statement to them. It's a reminder to yourself that you deserve better. People remember absence differently than they remember words. Words can be twisted, forgotten, or ignored, but absence lingers. It haunts. It makes people wonder why you left, what they could have done differently, and whether they were the reason for your departure. It forces them to sit with their own thoughts, thoughts they can't argue with or talk over. Letting absence speak doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're choosing peace over conflict, self-respect over validation. It's a refusal to keep explaining yourself to those who refuse to understand. It's letting go of the need to prove your worth to people who should have recognized it from the start. Absence is also a test. It reveals who truly values you and who only valued what you provided. Those who care will feel the weight of your absence and seek to make things right. Those who never valued you in the first place will let you go without a second thought. And that in itself is an answer, one that words could never deliver as clearly. There's a quiet kind of strength in leaving without a farewell speech. It's easy to stay and argue, to try to force people to see your side, but walking away without bitterness, without noise, is a sign of true inner power. It's saying, I don't need to explain myself to be at peace. My absence will say everything I needed to. In the end, absence is more than just leaving. It's creating a space where your value is finally noticed. It's a silent reminder that your presence was a privilege, not a guarantee. And sometimes, the only way people realize that is when you're no longer there.